if we want to effect a change internally first, so eventually we can eradicate Amalek literally, we need to attach it to Torah. And therefore we have Kriyas HaTorah, because Torah affects our reality, affects ourselves, affects the world. So good evening. Tonight is the eve of the 11th of Adar Sheni, and we will do Parshas Zochor. I just want to share a few thoughts from the Rebbe about Parshas Zochor. Regarding the takana to read Parshas Zochor in the Torah, Shabbos before Purim. Zochor is asher asa lacha Amalek. So the Rebbe brings the Magen Avraham. That Magen Avraham there's a question. And the Rebbe is developing the question more and more. Because there are a number of mitzvahs regarding remembering, to remember things. In the brachas of Kriyas Shema, in Kriyas Shema, we have to remember daily the inyan of, we have the 6 chiros, right? We have to remember Matan Torah, we have to remember Maaseh Amalek, we have to remember Maaseh Miriam, right? We have to remember Shabbos daily, we have to remember Maaseh Egel. There are many things that we have to remember. Why did the Chachamim establish that Parshas Zochor has to be read Dafka in the Torah, Dafka Parshas Amalek, and not in other chiros, in other things that we need to remember? I will not go on to the depths of all the halachic questions here, but the Magen Avraham gives an answer, and the Rebbe is not satisfied with his answer. The Magen Avraham says, well, regarding Matan Torah, we have Chag HaShavuos. So that helps us to remember, Matan Torah. And we have Shabbos every week. And Maaseh Miriam, Maaseh Egel, they didn't establish, the Chachamim didn't establish any takana here because these are not positive things. It's not talking about positive things about Yidden. So nothing was established around that. But the Rebbe said it seems that it's not enough, because Amalek too, regarding Maaseh Amalek, there is also Purim. And in Purim we have a Kriya, the Kriyas HaTorah about the Milchama against Amalek. So it is connected. So why do we need to have a special takana of Kriyas Amalek in the Torah, to the extent that this Shabbos is called Shabbos Zochor? Unlike all the other things that we have to remember, which are very cardinal things. So it's not that Rebbe says that Parshas Zochor was established to be read in the Torah because there are no other times to mention Maaseh Amalek. Because we have Purim. Rather, the Rebbe says, there is something very special about remembering Maaseh Amalek, the deeds of Amalek, that has a Maila Miyuchedes, that has a special advantage, or a special virtue, or the special higher level over the rest of the cardinal and important things that we do have to remember. So what is this special thing about Zechiras Maaseh Amalek, to remember Maaseh Amalek, because of which Kriya, a special Kriyas Torah, was established? The Rebbe is going on to make the question harsher and harsher by saying that the mitzvah of remembering Maaseh Amalek is a specific mitzvah, is a mitzvah pratis, it's not an all-inclusive mitzvah, l'chorah, and other things that we need to remember, like Shabbos, like not speaking Lashon Hara, like the Egel, or like Matan Torah, are cardinal things. And Zechiras Amalek is a specific thing. And then the Rebbe makes the question is even greater, and says that the greater wonder about this mitzvah is that the purpose of remembering Amalek, Zechiras Amalek, Lizkor, is mechias Amalek, to erase and to eradicate Amalek. As it says in the Hemshech HaPsukim, after we are told, Zachor et asher asa lecha Amalek, and then eventually, Vaya ba'aniach Hashem Elokecha lecha mikol oivecha, when eventually, when you will rest from all your enemies, Timche zecher Amalek, you should erase the memory of Amalek. And as the Rambam explains, Tzivanu lizkor ma she'asa lanu Amalek, ulisno oto, the Rambam said that Hashem commanded us to remember what Amalek did to us and to hate him. B'chol eis ve'es. The Rambam says it's a constant mitzvah to me'or the nefashos, to awaken the soul in hating Amalek and in remembering what he did to us and to fight him. But the Rebbe says, the question is very, very big, because in our time, it's not possible to fulfill bepoal, to actualize the mitzvah, the tzivui of eradicating Amalek. The mitzvah, for two reasons. Number one, the mitzvah of erasing Amalek applies only when Yisrael are metzuyim al admasam, when Bnei Yisrael are all in their land. In a matzav, not only in their land, in Eretz Yisrael, which Baruch Hashem, now the matzav is that most of Yidden, Baruch Hashem, are now in Eretz HaKodesh. However, in matzav of menucha, we have to reach a matzav of menucha in Eretz Yisrael, in Eretz HaKodesh, meaning peace and rest, בהניח הבא אלוקיך לך מכל אויביך מסביב בארץ, when Hashem will let you rest from all your enemies that surrounds you around your land. So there has to be, all Yidden have to be in Eretz Yisrael, or Yidden have to be in Eretz Yisrael, and in a matzav of menucha, and rest from all the enemies. And then we have another issue, which is a technical issue. The Rebbe says that if we had all these naim, all these conditions in place, which means we were all in our land and we are in a matzav of menucha and peace from all our enemies, it's still difficult. It's not so simple and really to begin with impossible to fulfill the mitzvah of Mechias Amalek, which by the way, we will see soon that there are two separate mitzvahs. We have two separate mitzvahs. One is to remember Amalek and one is to eradicate Amalek. But in any case, we cannot do the mitzvah of Mechias Amalek, of eradicating Amalek, because Sancherib already mixed between all the nations, and we don't know who is really Amalek exactly or who not. And according to this, it comes out that remembering Amalek in our time is not nogea to, it's not so relevant. It's not nogea to lepoal. In terms of actualizing this mitzvah, it doesn't apply now. Nevertheless, dafka to this zechira, to remembering Amalek that has to lead to eradicating Amalek, Chazal established a special kriya, a kriyas Torah miyuchedes and a Shabbos miyuchedes, that designated a special Shabbos Zochor, before Purim. In order to, so Rebbe says we need to understand what's going on here. It's not such a central mitzvah. It's not a mitzvah that applies to most of the time of the existence of the Jewish people. And our time of Galus, for sure not. And then even when we are in Eretz Yisrael, it's not easy. We need a special Navi and a special Baal Ruach HaKodesh to tell us who is Amalek and who is not. So if it's so not applicable to now, why Chazal gave it so much chashivus that it says only zechira that has to be read in the Torah and has to be done in a special Shabbos. To understand that, the Rebbe says, we first have to understand the mitzvah of remembering Amalek. Because again, it seems, the Rebbe now analyzing it, and it says it seems that first of all, number one, since the purpose of remembering Amalek is to eradicate Amalek, why the obligation to remember Amalek applies even when Al Pi Torah it's not possible to eradicate him? Why do we have to remember him in such an active way that even though Al Pi Torah, even though Al Pi Torah, it's not possible to fulfill the Mechias Amalek, which is the purpose of remembering Amalek. Nevertheless, we so actively reading about and remembering about Amalek, and it doesn't apply now. Base. Why there is a special need for a special command, Zochor es asher asa lecha Amalek, in order to awaken the nefashos b'ma'amarim lilachem, as we said before, quoting the Rambam, to awaken the soul to fight. Why do we have to do this whole schira? Like we have a tzivui, we were commanded to destroy nations when we got into the land of Canaan. Lo techaye kol neshama. There are 7 nations that when we came into the land of Canaan, that we were commanded, Lo techaye kol neshama. Don't leave any soul alive. But we don't have a mitzvah, a special mitzvah, to remember all the bad deeds of the 7 nations that had to be destroyed when we came into Eretz Israel. We don't have a special mitzvah to remember them and how bad and evil they were. And awaken our nefashos. We are told just eradicate them. Destroy them, kill them. From this itself, it's proving that even though the purpose of remembering Amalek is eradicating Amalek, that's the ultimate purpose and goal, that we have to finish with Amalek. Nevertheless, there is a special meaning and a special goal in remembering Amalek itself, even when you can't eradicate Amalek. There is a special mitzvah and a special quality and a special purpose to remembering Amalek, because of which the Rambam and other authorities that are counting the mitzvahs counts Mechias Amalek and Zechiras Amalek as 2 separate mitzvahs with 2 different gedarim. Halachically, as we mentioned before, the Rambam count, and the other Moneh HaMitzvahs, they count remembering Amalek and eradicating Amalek, 2 separate mitzvahs that have their own, each one has their own halachic category. For instance, how are they separate and different? Mechias Amalek, eradicating Amalek, is one of the mitzvahs that are obligation of the tzibur. The tzibur, the whole Jewish congregation, is obligated to eradicate Amalek, and some halachic authorities even think that it's a mitzvah that is upon the king, that the melech is responsible for leading the milchama against Amalek. But in any case, it's a mitzvah on Klal Yisrael. And this mitzvah has certain time, certain conditions, only after entering Eretz Yisrael and settling and so on, and having a menucha and so on. So this mitzvah is only on the tzibur, or maybe even just the king, and it doesn't apply all the time. It's only in certain conditions and certain times. Then we have the mitzvah of remembering Amalek. Remembering Amalek applies to every yachid, every individual, by himself. And it is a mitzvah tmidis. It is an ongoing, constant mitzvah, unlike the mitzvah of eradicating Amalek, which we cannot do now. So the mitzvah of remembering Amalek applies to every person, all the time, and all places. All time and all place. B'chol makom, b'chol zman. And it is done just through remembering Amalek itself. And that is a very inyan klali in the Torah. And we need to understand why. Why is it so important? It is more important than remembering Shabbos, more important than remembering Matan Torah, more important than remembering not to say Lashon Hara, not more important than remembering not to make to the Egel. Really, what's going on? So now the Rebbe will explain what does it mean to eradicate Amalek in your soul, in yourself, in your own inner world. What's the inyan of Amalek? What's the energy of Amalek? What's the attitude of Amalek? The inyan of Amalek is what Chazal say, that Yodea, Rashi brings it also, that Yodea es ribono umiskaven limrod bo. About Amalek it says that he knows his master, he knows his creator, and intentionally rebels against him, goes against him. And therefore, says the Rebbe, before a Yid fulfills the mitzvah of eradicating Amalek, literally, he needs to see to it that within himself there will not be Amalek left. He needs to eradicate Amalek within himself. That aspect in him that knows his master and goes against him. Even though Bedakus, as the Rebbe will explain, of course no Yid consciously says, I know my master and intentionally want to rebel against him. Who has any knowledge of his master would say that. So the Rebbe says, well, Bedakus, we need to find that. And this is the tochen of the mitzvah of remembering Amalek. It's not just a remembering in order to make sure that later on we will do an action of eradicating the war against Amalek, that we should need to remember him, that eventually we should fight him. Kipshuto. Or it's not even that by remembering we will avoid something negative, like remembering what Miriam did. And that will help us not to say Lashon Hara. The Rebbe says, no, it's not about that. It's the remembering of Amalek itself, and here it is. The remembering of other things brings to all kinds of things. The remembering of Amalek itself, the remembering itself, says the Rebbe, brings to the eradication of Amalek from your heart. The remembering Amalek, and we will see soon how, brings to you erasing Amalek, being able to erase Amalek from your heart. So it can be, the Rebbe says, that a Yid will have Amalek in his nefesh, that wants to affect him, and wants to turn him against his master. And when a person has a good position of Zochor es asher asa lecha Amalek, when it's kedebai, says the Rebbe, when a person remembers that, fulfilling this mitzvah of Zechiras Amalek properly, daily, really, and more than once, because it comes up more than once, nif'al benafsho, that affects him to eradicate Amalek and causing the bitul, annulling Amalek and destroying Amalek within. And not only that, by remembering consciously the inyan of Amalek, we can uproot Amalek within from its root, which means we can erase any inclination to go against God when we know what's right. And we all know that sometimes we do. I mean, I'm talking about myself. That I know what's right, and not always I do it. Not always I do what's right. Is it a little bit like that? Like Amalek? יודע es ריבונו מכוון למרוד בו? A little bit, בדקוס it is. And now we can understand the Rebbe that says why this remembering is connected, this remembering of Amalek is connected to a special kriya in the Torah. Why? Because Torah governs over the metzius of the world. It's very interesting. I feel bad that we didn't learn Tanya today, so I'll bring it here. Why we have Kriyas HaTorah? Because, says the Rebbe, Torah has the power to affect the reality of the world, the physical reality of the world. And when we tie the remembrance of Amalek together with Kriyas HaTorah, this actually affects us to be able to psychologically and spiritually eradicate Amalek from our nefesh. It's interesting that we are beginning now, we began already, we are reviewing the beginning of Nun Aleph in Tanya that begins with the Yanukah. The Yanukah is actually the son of Rabbi Nuna Sava, Mekubalim in the time of the Great Tanaim. And he was a child, he was 8 years old or something like that. And he was a very holy child. And he says the thing of there is a light that shines, lights on the head of a Yid, and with Shlomo HaMelech, and a wise man has to pay attention to that light that shines, that flame that shines over his head. And but you need to provide, in order for this light to burn, to keep lighting and burning, you have to provide oil, because the body of a person is like a wick, and the Shechina is shoira al rosho shel Adam. The Shechina dwells on the head of the person. The head means the Chabad, the Chokhmah specifically. In Chokhmah, which is the bitul in the mind, the Koach Ma, that's where the Shechina dwells and rests upon. So there is a Shechina in the Rosh of every person, and in order for this light of the Shechina to keep burning, Shlomo HaMelech cries out, you have to make sure that this fire keeps burning over your head, and therefore you need to keep providing this light with oil. Because just having the wick is not enough, because the wick actually darkens the light, the flame. We need oil so the flame will burn bright. What is this oil? Maisim Toivim. And the question is why the Zohar tells us the Dafka, who told it? The Yanukah. The Yanukah. And this Yanukah is a child. And that means the Dafka Maisim Toivim. Things that affect the world. Maisim Toivim, good deeds that affect the world, they cause the Ashrat HaShechina. And the same thing here. We are tying the remembering of Amalek with Kriyas HaTorah. Kriyas HaTorah, Torah has the power to affect the world. You might think that who has to make sure that he does good deeds and affect the world around him. Somebody who is already very mature and grew spiritually. Therefore, the Zohar tells us, you know who says that? The Yanukah is a child. He is not a person who is that developed. Still, even if we are a child spiritually, we still have the obligation to affect the world and to change the world. And what can we do it with the best? What's the best sword with which we can conquer the world and to transform it is Torah. And therefore, if we want to effect a change internally first, so eventually we can eradicate Amalek literally, we need to attach it to Torah. And therefore we have Kriyas Torah, because Torah affects our reality, affects ourselves, affects the world. Very potent and powerful. And this is also one of the explanations, the Rebbe says, to the fact that learning Parshas Zochor is, according to most of the poskim, mitzvahs aseh min Torah, a positive mitzvah min Torah. And one of the milas of mitzvahs deoraisa over mitzvahs derabanan is the mitzvahs deoraisa have more effect in changing the world than mitzvahs derabanan. Mitzvahs derabanan are more, I'm not getting into that, but mitzvahs derabanan are more connected with the person that does the mitzvah, and mitzvahs of the Torah can affect even not only the person himself, but also the world outside of him. And therefore, Kriyas Parshas Zochor, that according to some poskim, it is a mitzvah aseh min Torah, and it's not just one, that even women, according to some opinions, it's better, even women are mechuyav, halacha lemaaseh, you don't have to be in shul, but it's better if you do. And therefore, Kriyas Parshas Zochor is mitzvah aseh min Torah that gives koyach, that in addition to the fact that remembering Amalek will cause the mechias Amalek in the person, we will also eventually also eradicate Amalek literally. And since the Rebbe says, remembering Amalek is a mitzvah tmidis, is a constant mitzvah, that we have to remember Amalek. In Muvan, the Rebbe says, it's understood that kol echad has to ensure, each and every person, every individual, has to ensure that he is keeping that. That even though, the Rebbe says, chas v'shalom, and chas v'shalom to say that a Yid has to constantly be afraid, that he shouldn't be יודע es ריבונו, מתכוון למרוד בו. No Yid intentionally, who is aware of Hashem, wants to go against him intentionally. But bedakus, very subtle, in a very subtle way, it can eventually come about. We mentioned yesterday on the pasuk in Parshas Beshalach, כי יד על כס י"ק מלחמה להוויה בעמלק. That Chazal say that case, as we mentioned last night, case is a short way of saying kiseh, case, and Yud-K is a short of Yud-K Vav-K. So Chazal say that until the name of Amalek will be erased, the throne of Hashem, the kiseh of Hashem, which is now only case, and the name of Hashem, which instead of Yud-K Vav-K, it's only now Yud-K, is chaser. The name of Hashem is not shalem, and the kiseh of Hashem, the throne of Hashem, is not complete. As long as Amalek exists, Ein Shem Hashem Shalem. The name of Hashem is not complete, and it's only Yud-K. Why? Because Amalek opposes Vav-K. Amalek allows Yud-K and opposes Vav-K. Very strange. Amalek fights Vav-K and not Yud-K. Very strange, said the Rebbe. Because Amalek really miskaven limrod bo. Amalek intends to rebel and go against God, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So why, the Rebbe says, the Rebbe asks two questions. Why Amalek is only fighting the completion of the name? Why he doesn't fight the name of Hashem altogether? Why he only fights half of the name of Hashem? Why not the whole name of Hashem? He hates God. So fight is Yud-K Vav-K. Why are you fighting only half of the name of Hashem? Why only Vav-K? So Yud-K remains okay. And the second question is, B'isnagdus l'shleimus Hashem, why specifically after you ask why only half of the name and why not the whole name, the question is why Dafka Vavke and not Yudke? We know that Yudke is higher than Vavke, like the spheros. Yudke represents Chochma and Bina, and Vavke represents Midos and Malchus and action. So Yudke is also Yudke is called the hidden worlds, and Vavke the revealed worlds. Yudke is higher than Vavke. Adraba, the Rebbe says, a third point, that even more so, when only Yud-K is left, you still have a complete name, because Yud-K is a complete name, is a full name of one of the 7 holy names of God that are not to be erased, Yud-K. So the Rebbe explains, as we said before, the reflection of Shem Havaya. Shem Havaya operates in our psychology all the time, in our behavior, in our body, in our soul, in our spirituality. Shem Havaya operates and is reflected all the time in our being. And as we are reflecting the Adam HaElyon, the divine spheros, and therefore, and we are created in the Betzalmenu, in the image of God, of godliness, and therefore the Yud and the K are the Chochma and the Bina, or Seichel. The Vav represents the 6 Midos, the 6 Midos Shebalev, and also Torah. And the Hey represents Dibur and Maise, Mitzvos. What is the Ikar Milchama of Amalek, says the Rebbe? When we are remembering Amalek, what is the Ikar Milchemes Amalek? The Ikar Milchemes Amalek is Maise Beporal. He is fighting against Maise Beporal. He is not so much opposing the Yudke, the Moichin. The theory is not fighting. He doesn't care so much that a Yid knows his master. That's okay with Amalek. That there is Havana in Elokus, that there is an understanding of knowing of divinity, of godliness. However, what Amalek resists, what Amalek doesn't want, is that this understanding will affect the midos and the feelings of the heart that bring to machshava, dibur, or maise, the vav k. Once the midos are inspired, then our whole behavior and action follows as well. And that Amalek doesn't want. Adraba. Then the rebel is complete rebelling, because then Amalek accomplishes his goal, because he leaves the Yud-K, so there should be Yodeya. Yodeya is Riboino. And then he takes away the Vav-K, Miskavel Nimrod Bo. That's the ultimate rebelling, is that you know, if you don't know the Creator, you don't know the Master, and you do something against His will, that's not a full-fledged rebellion. Rebellion is when you know, and then you rebel. That's a full-fledged rebellion. And this is what Amalek wanted to accomplish by fighting the Yidden. That our Yud-K will be okay, we will know our master, but it will not affect our personally, will not affect us to change ourselves, our feelings, our attitudes, and our behavior, that we should apply Torah and mitzvahs, learn Torah and do mitzvahs in this world. So this is the purpose of Amalek. And in this, that Amalek knows his master and doesn't allow the Kabbalah's all, the following the will of the master, that's his purpose. And now we can understand, the Rebbe says. And by the way, this is the end of Amalek, as we learned yesterday. Amalek is Am Malak, is a nation that beheads. Amalek is Am Malak. Limlok means to behead. Is a nation that beheads, that separates between Yodea, between you know, and what you are and how you behave. And now we understand why the war of Amalek against the Jewish people occurred Baderech B'Tzeschem Mitzrayim, when you left Egypt, before Matan Torah. Milchemes Amalek took place before Matan Torah because Amalek Beruchnius is fighting Matan Torah. What is Amalek fighting? The chidush of Matan Torah, that Torah lo b'shamayim hi. The Torah is meant to change the world. And therefore the Malachim who wanted to receive the Torah up there in Shamayim, now we understand the Torah wasn't given to them because the purpose of the Torah is to be brought down and to be studied bepoal and lead to doing of mitzvahs to the extent that ha'maaseh hu ha'ikar. And when we annul and eradicate the inyan of Amalek, and then from the moach, from the mind, comes a flow down to the heart and to action, then we are applying the power of the Torah to its fullest. And now we can receive the Torah to its fullest. Amalek should be eradicated in such a way that the Shem Hashem should be Shalem, the Yud K should join the Vav K, it should be Shechina coming down to the world to the extent that Hashem will be revealed fully, not only that aspect of Hashem that is allocated just for our little world, but Hashem himself, the way he is in himself and his essence in relation to himself, sharing himself with us fully and intimately b'geula amitis v'shlema. So there should be LaYehudim Oira v'simcha v'sason v'ikar, good news from Eretz HaKodesh.